These 350,000 currently, right. And we said the core number much less than that. They had more than 1 million. That's a 1 million-man army.
They did.
Returning Iraqi AAA.
The CAS missions, the close air support missions.
Then in the distance we could see the MLRS.
Pentagon says may have been the biggest ground battle so far, about 95 miles south of Baghdad. But no reports of U.S. casualties, but now claims between 150 and 200 Iraqis dead.
Heavy machine gun fire, mortars and helicopter gunships were all involved in the fight as the U.S. military pushes north towards Baghdad. The fight was so intense and the front lines so fluid that a U.S. Marine unit involved in the battle mistakenly took U.S. forces staged nearby as opposing forces. Some of them have been flexi-capped because U.S. military commanders believe they may be members of a paramilitary group to whom they attribute the stiff resistance against U.S. forces in Nasiriyah.
Vehicles that the Marines use, they return fire with 50 caliber machine guns. They also return fire with their M16s, Marines pointing out of the top, firing. Not indiscriminately, though. That's something the Marines point out. Only when they were fired upon, only when they could see the muzzle flashes did they fire back. RPGs, Kalashnikov fire.
Column of Iraqi armored vehicles pouring out of Basra. Officials aren't sure whether those vehicles are heading to attack the port city of Qasr or whether they are retreating from Basra.
Air dominance. We have special forces in the north, the south, and the west. The main ground forces are moving at a phenomenal pace toward the north, closing in on Baghdad.
And finally, the Pentagon says it is still checking reports that as many as 7 American prisoners were executed after their supply convoy was ambushed not far from the city of Nasiriyah.
You're embedded. I mean, you do get attached to the unit you're with because you're in harm's way with that particular organization, or you're right with them all the time, eating, sleeping, everything with that particular unit.
Looking at a live picture provided by WABC News this morning, this is what Midtown New York looks like at this hour. War protesters demonstrating their opinion in the streets of Midtown Manhattan. They are staging what they call a die-in right now.
A series of powerful explosions shook the Capitol this morning. Warplanes and anti-aircraft fire were reported overhead.
About 1,000 troops parachuted from cargo planes and took up positions at an airfield in territory held by the Kurds.
Just because the Fedayins are using those civilians and sometimes civilians with young kids as a shield in order to approach undisturbed the checkpoint.
The path we are taking is not easy, and it may be long. Yet we know our destination. We will stay on the path, mile by mile, all the way to Baghdad and all the way to victory. Thank you all.